It's a God thing. It's something that I never dreamed of for myself. You couldn't have paid me any amount of money to believe that this would happen one day.
Who would have thought that Lynda Randle kept a shocking secret from her fans and the world for decades? A secret that finally put all the pieces of the puzzle together. It wasn't until the age of 63 that she finally revealed what everyone suspected. Lynda Randle is known for her stunning vocals and mysterious aura. But what was hiding under that facade? Let's find out. For years, Lynda Randle had been a beloved figure in the world of gospel music. Admired not only for her stunning vocals, but also for her unwavering faith and the powerful messages in her songs. She had built a career around inspiring others, sharing her love for God, and connecting deeply with her fans. On stage, she was everything her audience hoped for, graceful, strong, and a shining example of what it meant to live a life of purpose. But beneath this public persona, there was a secret Lynda had kept hidden for decades, something that, once revealed, would change the way people viewed her and the journey she had been on. At 63, Lynda decided it was time to open up about the truth that had been buried for so long. It wasn't an easy decision. After all, she had spent so many years building a reputation as the epitome of strength and resilience. Yet, as the years went by, she found that keeping this part of her life hidden was no longer something she wanted to do. Fans who had always admired her for her authenticity would surely understand, she thought. What she didn't expect was the profound impact her revelation would have. But I'm here. I went to a Christian school in Washington, D.C., actually in the Maryland area, and I was kind of thrust into an all-white choir, and I was like the only chocolate kid in this choir. And they were singing these spirituals and songs, and one thing led to another, and they asked me to sing. And after a series of, my college days at LU, Liberty University, I kind of hooked up with you guys. The Lord put us together, and, I guess when you hang out with the Gaither folks, Bill, he can get you doing anything. Things you thought you never would do. I would have never dreamed. As a matter of fact, I still don't consider myself Southern Gospel Paresi. The truth she revealed wasn't just about a small, private matter. It was something far more significant, something that had shaped who she was as both a person and an artist. Lynda had struggled with issues that most people could never imagine. Despite the outward success and the adoration from her fans, she had been facing personal battles that had often left her feeling isolated and vulnerable. For years, these struggles were kept behind closed doors, hidden from the public eye. But now, at a time when she felt ready to share her story, Lynda opened up about the challenges that had shaped her life in ways that few people knew. It was a side of her that had remained largely unseen, and for many fans, it was both shocking and heartbreaking to hear. Yet, in revealing this secret, Lynda did more than just share her pain. She also shared her strength, showing that even the brightest stars have their dark moments. This moment of honesty was a turning point for Lynda. The hidden side of her life had always been there, but it was only now that she was willing to bring it to light. What she had kept to herself for so long became the key to understanding the complexity of her journey, one that was not just about the music, but about the person she had become. Fans who had always admired her for her strength and grace now saw her in a new light. It wasn't just about the beautiful voice they had known. It was about the woman behind the music, someone who had faced struggles just like everyone else, and who had found the courage to rise above them. Yeah, my dad. And I didn't even know this. Father, I know of him because Moody broadcasted a story on Unshackled. And he was, when I say like a gangster, like a gambler, a racketeer, just nuts. And he had a violent temper, and he was packing a gun a lot of times. And I said my father had a temper. My dad was the most patient, understanding, loving man. I just get swirled up with tears, and I can't even describe the relationship that I have with my father. You have a picture of my dad. He was driving his taxi cab. He was a cab driver, and he was on a Maryland highway, and he heard Oliver B. Green, an old preacher from the South in the United States, preaching a clear message of salvation. He pulls over his cab on the side of the Maryland highway, accepts Christ as his savior. My mother was somewhere. My brother was somewhere. They were separated. God put that family back together. Now, my brother was 15 years old. They had one kid, 15 years. Then, when God put them back together, 6 more kids were born. And I was in that 6 more. Yeah. So if that hadn't changed, and my mother was nuts too. She pulled a gun on my dad, and this is my first time saying this on television. Mommy, I love you. But this is way before Christ. For most of Lynda Randle's career, her public persona was one of grace, strength, and unwavering faith. To her fans, she was a beacon of light, an artist whose music not only inspired but also uplifted countless people. Her powerful voice and her ability to deliver heartfelt performances made her one of the most respected figures in gospel music. However, for years, there was an untold story behind the scenes, one that Lynda had kept hidden. This secret was something that had shaped her life, both personally and professionally. And when she finally decided to reveal it at the age of 63, the impact on her career and life was profound. Lynda's revelation did not come without hesitation. For decades, she had maintained an image of composure and strength. Her fans had come to admire her not just for her voice, but for the sense of stability she seemed to radiate. To them, she was a role model, someone who had her life together, who was always there with a message of hope. But behind that public image, Lynda was carrying a burden, a private struggle that she had never shared. For years, this secret had been a heavy weight, one that affected not only her personal life, but also her professional life in ways that few could understand. When she finally spoke out about it, the world was shocked. The revelation was not just about a minor personal issue. It was something far more significant that had been lurking in the shadows for much of her career. This secret was tied to challenges that Lynda had faced outside of the spotlight, struggles that had often left her feeling isolated and alone. She had kept them to herself for so long, believing that her role as an artist was to be a source of inspiration and hope for others. But the truth was, she was battling her own demons, and it had been taking a toll on her for years. The revelation of this secret was not just a cathartic moment for Lynda. It was a moment that changed everything for her career and her life. The first noticeable impact was the change in how her fans viewed her. For years, her fans had seen her as the epitome of strength, someone whose music carried a message of unwavering faith and hope. To many, Lynda represented the ideal, someone who had overcome challenges and used her platform to inspire others. But once she shared her struggles, it opened a new chapter in her relationship with her audience. The secret she had kept hidden now humanized her in a way that made her even more relatable. Fans who had looked up to her for years now saw her as someone who, like them, had faced adversity. They saw her as someone who had been fighting her own battles while still managing to inspire and uplift others. This new level of transparency deepened the connection she had with her fans. As Lynda shared her truth, it became clear that her struggles were not just personal. They were deeply intertwined with her career. For years, Lynda had been battling with the pressure to maintain her public image, to live up to the expectations that her fans had placed on her. This pressure, while seemingly part of her job, had weighed heavily on her. She often felt as if she had to be perfect, both as an artist and as a person. The public image she had created over the years, one of grace, strength, and faith, was not entirely untrue, but it was only part of the story. Behind that image was a woman who had faced significant challenges and was often struggling to reconcile her own reality with the image she had created. It was exhausting, and it affected her work. She found it increasingly difficult to balance her public persona with her private struggles. She wanted to be the person her fans saw, but it was becoming harder and harder to keep up the facade. I hadn't said anything to anybody, for until I was almost 26, 27. I was getting, married, preparing to get married, and went to the doctor for checkups and things. And stuff just started coming out, and I broke down at the doctor's office as I was exposing all this. It was a Christian doctor that attended our church, and I was like, it just blew me away because all of this time, I just had suppressed things. And people just don't want to talk about it, so I never talk about it. Did your parents have any idea? No, no idea. No idea. Close family. Member, female, and no idea. But even in that, I thought about the person that did that. What happened to them? That's how God kind of gave me a take on this whole thing. Not just somebody woke up and said, I'm going to do this to you, but what happened to them? And so, while I may have been a victim for a while, I'm a victor now. I am just walking in complete victory. Healing, wholeness, all of the above. And I'm able to, meet people and talk with people, and God gives me that zero in, like, I kind of know where you are. The impact on her career was immediate. As soon as the secret was revealed, there was a noticeable shift in the way the public perceived her. Media, which had long admired her for her professionalism and poise, began to delve deeper into her personal story. They were no longer just interested in her music, they wanted to know about the struggles she had faced behind the scenes. Some fans were shocked, and others felt betrayed that they had never known the full story. But for many, Lynda's honesty only increased their admiration for her. They saw her not just as a performer, but as a real person, someone who had endured hardships and come out stronger on the other side. However, this revelation wasn't without its challenges. Lynda had built a career based on trust and authenticity, and for a time, it seemed like that trust could be shaken. The pressure to maintain her image had always been a part of her career, and now that her hidden struggles were out in the open, there were questions about how her fans would react. Would they still view her as a source of inspiration, or would they see her as someone who had been hiding her true self for too long? It was a difficult moment for Lynda, but in the end, the love and support she received from her fans were overwhelming. They appreciated her vulnerability and bravery for opening up about something so personal. Many fans expressed how much they had always admired her strength, but now they admired her even more for her honesty. This moment of revelation also had a profound impact on Lynda's personal life. For years, she had carried this secret alone, feeling the weight of it on her shoulders. But by sharing it with the world, she was able to release some of that burden. It was a cathartic moment, one that allowed her to step into a new phase of her life. No longer burdened by the pressure of keeping up appearances, Lynda began to live more freely. She no longer had to hide behind a mask of perfection, and that newfound freedom allowed her to reconnect with her true self. The impact of this release wasn't just emotional, it was also spiritual. As a deeply faithful person, Lynda's decision to share her struggles was a way of surrendering her burdens to God and allowing herself to heal. In the months following her revelation, Lynda experienced a shift in her approach to both her career and her personal life. She began to focus more on the things that truly mattered to her: her family, her faith, and her music. The pressure of being perfect was no longer something she felt she had to live up to. Her fans continued to support her, but now it was not just for the music she created, it was for the person she had become. The secret that had once weighed her down was no longer a burden. It had become a part of her story, one that she could now embrace with pride. And in doing so, she became more connected to her audience than ever before. The revelation was not just a turning point for her career. It was a moment that allowed her to live more fully, more authentically, and more deeply than she ever had before. Lynda Randle's decision to finally share the secret. The deeply personal secret that had been hidden for so long changed the course of her career and her life. It allowed her to connect with her fans on a deeper level and to embrace her true self, free from the constraints of perfection. Her music, once solely a source of inspiration, became an even more powerful vehicle for healing and connection. The impact of her revelation was profound, not just for her career, but for her own personal growth. It was a reminder that even the most accomplished and admired figures have their own struggles. And it is through facing those struggles with honesty and courage that true strength is found. When Lynda Randle finally shared the deeply personal secret she had kept hidden for so many years, the reactions from both her fans and the music industry were overwhelming. For decades, she had built a career as one of the most respected voices in gospel music, known for her powerful, soul-stirring performances and her unwavering faith. To many, Lynda was a symbol of grace, strength, and purity, a woman who seemed to have everything figured out. Her music, which had touched the hearts of millions, always carried a message of hope, perseverance, and love. So when the secret was revealed, the reaction was as complex as the woman herself. For the fans, Lynda's admission was nothing short of a revelation. She had been a source of inspiration for so many, a shining example of someone who had used her talent to bring others closer to God. Her songs, often filled with deep emotion and uplifting messages, had become a soundtrack to countless lives. But with the unveiling of her secret, there was a shift. Some fans were initially stunned, feeling as if the woman they had admired for so long was now a little more human, a little less perfect. For years, Lynda had been the embodiment of strength, a pillar of faith that seemed unshakable. To learn that she, too, had struggles, real, personal challenges, was a shock to many. But for others, it only made her more relatable. They no longer saw her as a distant figure removed from the everyday challenges of life. They saw her as someone who had faced her own battles and emerged stronger for it. The news sent waves through social media, with fans expressing a mix of emotions. Some wrote heartfelt messages of support, praising her for her courage and thanking her for her honesty. They shared how much her music had meant to them over the years, and how her openness had only deepened their connection to her. "I've been listening to your music for years, and it's always helped me through tough times," one fan wrote. "But now, knowing that you've faced challenges too, it makes your music even more meaningful. Thank you for sharing your story. You're an inspiration." Others, however, took a bit longer to process the news. They had always seen Lynda as a flawless figure, someone who radiated peace and certainty. Learning about her struggles made them question the image they had formed of her. They needed time to reconcile the woman they admired with the person who had shared a painful secret. But even for those fans, the overwhelming majority of responses were filled with support, admiration, and love. It was clear that for many, Lynda's authenticity had only strengthened their admiration for her. The music industry, too, had a varied reaction to Lynda's revelation. As one of the leading figures in gospel music, Lynda had built a reputation not just for her singing, but for her professionalism and her unwavering dedication to her craft. Her voice had been a defining force in the industry for years, and her music had touched millions of lives. When she came forward with her personal story, it caused many in the industry to reflect on their own views of fame and the pressure that comes with it. Gospel music, in particular, often carries an expectation of purity and perfection. Artists are expected to represent the ideals of faith and virtue in everything they do, both on and off the stage. For many, Lynda had always embodied those qualities. So when she revealed her struggles, it raised questions about the pressures that artists in the gospel genre, and in general, face. Industry insiders and fellow musicians praised Lynda for her courage and transparency. They understood the weight of what she had done. Opening up about personal struggles, especially when you've built a career around a certain image, is never easy. But those who knew Lynda personally and had worked with her over the years admired her even more for her decision to be open with the world. She's always been real with her audience, even when it's not easy, one fellow gospel artist commented. Her decision to share her struggles shows just how strong she really is. It's one thing to sing about faith and hope, but it's another to live through hardships and still maintain that same spirit. I respect her more than ever now. Others in the industry recognize the shift in how Lynda would be perceived, especially by the broader public. While her admission may have shaken the image she had carefully built over the years, many believed it would only make her more beloved. The music industry can be a difficult place, filled with expectations, pressures, and judgments, and Lynda's willingness to show vulnerability in an industry that often rewards perfection was seen as a powerful act of courage. However, not all reactions were positive. Some critics questioned whether Lynda's decision to reveal her secret was an attempt to capitalize on the drama for publicity. In an era where many artists face scrutiny for every aspect of their personal lives, there were those who speculated that Lynda's revelation might have been a calculated move. Is this about transparency, or is it a way to keep the spotlight on her? One music critic wrote, "It's hard to say, but in an industry where everything is under a microscope, it's difficult not to wonder if there's a hidden agenda behind the timing of her revelation." These opinions, while fewer in number, pointed to the reality that when a well-known figure reveals something personal, the public's response can often be more skeptical than supportive. But the vast majority of responses from the industry were overwhelmingly positive. Fellow artists, fans, and industry leaders praised Lynda for the strength she had shown in sharing her truth. Her revelation served as a reminder to many that artists are human, too, and that the pressures of fame, expectations, and personal challenges can affect even the most beloved figures. It was a moment of reflection for the music industry as a whole, encouraging people to think more deeply about the pressures that artists face, especially in genres like gospel music, where public expectations of purity and perfection are so high. Beyond the personal and professional impact, Lynda's decision to come forward with her secret was also a moment of transformation in her relationship with her fans. The bond she had with them, built on years of shared experiences and the power of her music, became even stronger after her admission. Fans no longer just admired her voice or her music. They admired her courage, her vulnerability, and the fact that she was willing to share a part of herself that many others might have kept hidden. The openness she demonstrated created a deeper connection between Lynda and her audience. They were no longer just fans of her music. They were now connected to her as a person, someone who had faced struggles and emerged stronger on the other side. Her story became one that many of them could relate to, and that only made her music more powerful. In the end, the reactions from both fans and the music industry proved that Lynda's decision to share her secret had far-reaching effects. It wasn't just a moment of personal revelation. It was a turning point that reshaped how she was viewed both professionally and personally. The way her fans embraced her and the way the music industry responded showed that in a world that often demands perfection, true authenticity is what resonates most. Lynda's courage in sharing her truth didn't just change her career, it deepened her connection with the world. Her legacy, built on both her music and her ability to inspire through her story, would only continue to grow. As Lynda Randle stands at the threshold of a new chapter in her life, following her heartfelt revelation of the personal secret she had kept hidden for so long, The question on everyone's mind is, what lies ahead for this beloved gospel singer and her legacy? Lynda's decision to come forward with her struggles has changed the way many view her.